The Broken Alpha. His billion-dollar curse. Prologue. The monster on the stage. The ballroom glittered with gold and crystal. Chandeliers bathed the room in warm light, while champagne glasses clinked like soft bells. Cameras flashed at every angle, eager to capture the man at the center of it all, Adrian Vaylor, the king of empires, the billionaire alpha whose name commanded respect in both the human and wolf worlds. Tall, sharp-jawed, dark eyes that seemed to burn even through the lenses of paparazzi. He was power embodied, dressed in a tailored black suit that cost more than most families made in a year. People didn't just look at him, they worshipped. Investors smiled too wide, women leaned too close, and wolves in human skin bowed with subtle nods. This was his kingdom. This was his stage. Adrian lifted his glass, prepared to speak, when a single scent hit his senses: betrayal. It slithered through the crowd like smoke, twisting his wolf inside him. His gaze locked on a man at the far end of the table, his cousin Lucien. Smiling. Too smug. Too calm. The wolf surged. And then everything shattered. The cameras captured it all. The sudden flash of yellow in Adrian's eyes. The way his jaw tightened, cracking as his teeth lengthened. A low growl rolled across the ballroom, silencing the laughter, freezing the air. Then came the screams. Adrian's wolf tore free, ripping through silk gowns and $1,000 suits. He moved too fast, too brutal. Investors who had smiled at him seconds ago were now scrambling under tables, blood streaking across white marble floors. The chandelier above trembled, casting fractured light over the chaos. Journalists didn't run, they filmed. They photographed. The world would not only hear of this massacre, they would see it. And standing frozen at the edge of the carnage was Lucien, untouched, his smug smile wider now. Adrian tore through his enemies, and with every scream, every drop of blood, he felt it, control slipping, dignity gone, the king falling. By the time his security dragged him away, the world had already decided. The man was no longer a king. He was a monster. And that was the night Adrian Vaylor ceased to be the untouchable alpha billionaire, and became nothing more than a broken curse. Chapter 1: The Ghost of a King. The cabin was silent, save for the crackle of firewood. Outside, snow buried the mountains in suffocating white, a perfect hiding place for a man who had lost everything. Adrian Vaylor sat in the dark, unshaven, shirtless, scars cutting across his chest like broken maps. His wolf paced inside him, restless, feral, snarling against the chains of his will. 3 months. 3 months since the massacre. 3 months since the world watched him fall. 3 months since Lucien took everything. The empire Adrian had built was now run by traitors. The board called him unstable, unfit. The media replayed his monstrous transformation every night. Human authorities demanded his arrest. Rival packs whispered he should be put down like a rabid dog. He didn't care about the empire. Not anymore. He cared only about the wolf. It was broken, fractured, a beast that clawed at him with rage, grief, and hunger. Sometimes Adrian wondered if he was already dead, if the massacre was the end, and this was some purgatory he couldn't escape. The fire crackled louder, snapping him back. His body shook as his wolf surged again, threatening to rip free. His hands trembled, claws pushing against his skin. He pressed his palms to his face and whispered through clenched teeth. Not tonight. Not again. But the wolf didn't listen. It never listened. Adrian slammed his fist into the table, splitting the wood. His chest heaved, breath ragged. He was a man, yes, but barely. The line between human and beast blurred more each day. And deep down, he feared the inevitable truth. One night, he wouldn't come back. Chapter 2: The Doctor with Empty Eyes. The city was alive with noise, car horns, vendors shouting, footsteps against wet pavement. But to Elena Ward, it all sounded like a dull echo. She moved through the hospital corridors like a shadow, carrying her stethoscope, her charts, her grief. The memory of her daughter's last breath never left her. It lived in her hands, trembling when she tried to stitch a wound. It lived in her chest, heavy, suffocating, every time she faced another child in pain. She had been one of the best trauma doctors in the city. Now she was barely surviving. When the board called her in, she expected the same conversation as before. We're concerned about your performance. Maybe you should take more time off. Have you considered counseling? But instead, they gave her something else. A file. Private patient. Confidential. High pay, her supervisor said, sliding the folder toward her. Off the record. If you want it. Elena frowned. What's the catch? Her supervisor leaned forward, lowering his voice. You'll be working for a man who doesn't want hospitals, doesn't want press. You'll go to him, treat him in private. Whatever you see stays there. Elena flipped the file open. The name at the top stopped her breath. Adrian Vaylor. The headlines rushed back. The billionaire beast. The monster of the gala. The king who lost his crown. Elena closed the file slowly. A broken man. A scandal that shook the world. And now somehow her patient. For the first time in months, she felt something stir inside her chest. Not joy. Not even hope. But curiosity. She agreed. Chapter 3. The touch that calms the beast. The cabin door creaked open, letting in the faint scent of rain and city air. Adrian lifted his head, eyes narrowing at the figure stepping inside. A woman. Human. Small compared to him, yet carrying herself with an unshakable steadiness. Her hair was tied back, her gaze calm but unreadable. Elena Ward, she said softly, setting her medical bag on the table. I'm here to help. Adrian's laugh was low, bitter. Help. His voice was gravel. You think you can fix me, little doctor? Her eyes flicked to the broken furniture, the claw marks in the wood, the scars on his chest. Most people would have backed away. But not her. I don't think, Elena replied. I try. The wolf inside him snarled at her defiance. Adrian's lips curled, revealing the faintest glint of fong. He wanted her to run. Needed her to. But she didn't. She stepped closer. The scent of her hit him like lightning, clean, warm, threaded with something he couldn't name. His wolf surged forward, claws raking inside his skin. Adrian staggered, grabbing the table, his body shaking. Stay back, he growled. But Elena didn't. She reached for him. Her hand touched his arm, small, warm, steady. And for the first time in months, the wolf inside him stilled. Adrian froze, breath caught in his chest. The growl faded. The claws withdrew. Silence filled his head where madness had lived for so long. He looked down at her hand, then at her eyes, grief hidden in their depths, but strength too. She had calmed the beast. And that terrified him more than losing control ever had. Chapter 4, Bond of Fire and Ash. The fire burned low in the cabin, shadows crawling along the walls. Adrian sat in silence, watching Elena move about the room with quiet determination. She unpacked her bag, set out bandages and vials, scribbled notes on a worn notepad. It was strange, almost maddening, the way her presence muted the chaos inside him. The wolf paced, yes, but no longer screamed. His breathing was steady. His claws remained hidden beneath skin. Adrian studied her with a predator's patience. You're not afraid of me, he said finally, his voice like gravel dragged across stone. Elena didn't look up. Should I be? His lips curved into something between a smirk and a snarl. You've read the headlines. You know what I am. Now she did look at him, her gaze sharp, unflinching. I know what they say, but I don't treat headlines. I treat people. For a moment, silence. Only the crackle of fire between them. Adrian's chest tightened, unfamiliar. She didn't flinch under his gaze, didn't shrink from the weight of his presence. She was small, human, fragile, and yet she stood taller than most wolves he'd ever commanded. But that strength made her dangerous. He leaned forward, voice low. Stay long enough, little doctor, and you'll see what I really am. And when you do, you'll run. Elena's jaw set, her voice steady. We'll see. Chapter 5, The Pax Rebellion. It started with whispers. News filtered through Adrian's contacts. Board members being bought, allies switching sides, and Lucian tightening his grip on the empire. But the betrayal ran deeper than corporate strategy. Wolves within Adrian's own pack had begun to waver. Some believed their alpha was too broken, too dangerous to follow. Others whispered of replacing him. Adrian felt the tension in the air even before the knock on the cabin door. Elena stiffened when the door swung open, revealing two men. Wolves. Tall, broad, their eyes sharp with the kind of loyalty that didn't belong to him anymore. Alpha, one said carefully, bowing his head just enough to show respect, but not enough to hide doubt. The pack is restless. They say you've lost control. Adrian rose slowly, his height filling the room like thunderclouds gathering. And what do you say? The wolf hesitated. We say, perhaps it's time for a new leader. Someone the pack can trust. Someone unbroken. The wolf's gaze flicked toward Elena, lingering just a second too long. A subtle smirk followed. Adrian's wolf roared inside him. In a blur, Adrian had the man by the throat, slamming him against the cabin wall so hard dust rained from the rafters. Claws pricked the wolf's skin, and his golden eyes burned bright. Say it again, Adrian growled, voice dripping with lethal promise. The man choked, gasping. His companion shifted uneasily, but didn't dare intervene. Elena's voice cut through the storm. Calm. Firm. Adrian. Let him go. Her tone wasn't pleading. It was commanding. For the briefest moment, Adrian hesitated. The wolf inside him snarled at the thought of obedience, but her voice anchored him. His claws retracted. His grip loosened. He released the wolf, letting him collapse to the floor, coughing. Adrian turned slowly, his eyes locking onto Elena. And in that moment, realization struck him like lightning. This fragile human, this broken doctor, had power over him. Not through fear. Not through dominance. But through something far more dangerous. Something he could neither control nor destroy. Chapter 6. The Rival Alpha's Challenge. The storm rolled in that night. Wind howled through the mountain pines, and thunder rumbled like distant drums of war. Adrian stood at the window of the cabin, staring into the darkness. His wolf was restless again, but this time not from weakness. This time it was anticipation. Because someone was coming. Elena sat at the table, flipping through her notes, pretending not to notice the tension in his shoulders. But she noticed everything. She had learned the hard way. You didn't survive a patient like Adrian Vaylor without watching every detail, every breath, every shift in his expression. The knock on the door came like a gunshot. 3 heavy pounds. Deliberate. Adrian's jaw tightened. He didn't need to open it to know who it was. When he finally pulled the door wide, the night air rushed in, and with it, a man who filled the frame like a shadow. Tall. Broad. Smiling in a way that wasn't warmth, but warning. His eyes glowed faint silver. Adrian, he drawled, voice slick with mock respect. It's been too long. Marcus, Adrian growled. The rival alpha stepped inside without permission, his gaze immediately finding Elena. His smile widened. So the rumors were true, Marcus said. The broken alpha hides in the mountains with a human. He tilted his head. How fascinating. Elena stiffened, but she didn't flinch. Her gaze met his with quiet defiance. Adrian moved between them in a blink, his presence towering, his voice low and dangerous. She's not yours to look at. Marcus chuckled. Protective, are we? That makes things interesting. Because the packs are restless, Adrian. They want strength. They want stability. And they won't follow a man who's lost control of his wolf. Unless, of course, you step aside and let me take your place. Adrian's wolf snarled inside him, aching for blood. Over my dead body. Marcus's grin sharpened. That can be arranged. The challenge hung in the air like a blade. The storm outside cracked lightning across the sky, and Elena suddenly understood. This was no ordinary rivalry. This was a fight for dominance. For power. For survival. And if Adrian lost, she wouldn't just lose her patient. She would lose the only man who had made her feel alive since her world collapsed. Chapter 7. The Beast Unleashed. The challenge couldn't wait. Marcus wanted blood, and Adrian's wolf demanded it. By dawn, the clearing near the river was thick with tension. Wolves had gathered, pack members hiding in shadows, waiting to see who would stand victorious. The world of men was far away now. This was primal. This was law. Elena stood at the edge of the clearing, heart hammering. She didn't belong here, but Adrian hadn't sent her away. And that terrified her more than anything. Adrian stood shirtless, scars catching the early light. His wolf simmered beneath his skin, golden eyes flickering. Marcus circled him like a predator, muscles taut, teeth flashing. You're weak, Marcus taunted. The pack sees it. They smell it. They'll never follow a broken alpha. Adrian's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Let's find out. And then the shift began. It was violent. Bones cracked, muscles tore and reformed, skin rippling as fur burst through. Adrian's body bent and reshaped until a massive wolf stood where a man had been. Black fur streaked with scars, eyes glowing gold like fire. The crowd gasped. But something was wrong. The shift hadn't been clean. His wolf trembled, snarled, faltered for half a breath. Marcus's grin widened. His own shift was fluid, effortless. A silver wolf with eyes like ice leapt forward, teeth bared. The fight was brutal. Fang against fang. Claw against flesh. The ground tore beneath them as they crashed together, snarling, snapping. Elena's heart pounded, every muscle in her body screaming to run. But she couldn't move. She couldn't look away. Adrian fought like fury itself, but she saw it, the fracture, the weakness in his wolf. Marcus pressed advantage, slamming him into the dirt, jaws clamping on his throat. Adrian! Elena screamed without thinking. And in that moment, her voice cut through the haze of blood and rage. Adrian's wolf surged. Golden fire blazed in his eyes. With a roar that shook the clearing, he twisted free, slamming Marcus into the ground with bone-crushing force. The fight turned. Adrian's claws ripped into silver fur, his teeth closing around Marcus's shoulder until blood sprayed the earth. The rival wolf yelped, pinned, defeated. The pack watched in stunned silence as Adrian stood tall over his rival, victorious. But when his gaze turned toward Elena, still trembling at the edge of the clearing, she saw something that chilled her more than Marcus's defeat. Because the look in his eyes wasn't just wolf. It was hunger. For her. Chapter 8, Hunger of the Wolf. The forest was silent now. Marcus limped away, blood trailing behind him, his defeat witnessed by all. Wolves dispersed into the trees, murmuring in low growls, some in awe, others in fear. But Adrian didn't move toward them. He moved toward her. Elena's breath caught as the massive black wolf stalked closer, golden eyes locked on hers. Blood dripped from his muzzle, his fur matted and dark. His chest heaved with each breath, primal and wild. She should have run. She should have turned and fled into the trees. But she didn't. Her feet were rooted to the earth, heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst. Her body shook, but her gaze didn't break from his. Adrian, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if the man inside could even hear her. The wolf growled, low and deep, vibrating through her bones. He circled her, predator and prey, dominance and surrender painted in every step. His nose brushed against her neck, inhaling her scent. Elena froze, breath shuddering. And then it hit her, a heat that seared through her skin where his breath lingered. A pull, electric and undeniable, deep in her chest. Mate. The word wasn't spoken, but it slammed into her mind all the same. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. Adrian's wolf didn't just want her. He was bound to her. Her knees nearly buckled under the weight of it. The wolf pressed closer, teeth grazing her collarbone. Elena gasped, fingers clutching his fur without meaning to. Her body burned, her soul trembling like it had been waiting for this moment all her life. But then Adrian froze. His eyes, wild and glowing, flickered. Human recognition fought through the storm. The wolf staggered back, claws digging into the dirt, as if holding himself away from her was more painful than tearing his own flesh. Elena reached a hand toward him. Adrian, he roared, the sound shaking the earth, and bolted into the trees. Leaving her standing there, trembling, heartbroken, branded by a bond she didn't ask for but could no longer deny. Chapter 9, Truth in the Darkness. Elena paced the cabin like a caged bird, her hands trembling, her mind spinning. Hours had passed since Adrian vanished into the forest. The storm had cleared, leaving the night painfully quiet. But inside her, nothing was quiet. She remembered the feel of his teeth against her skin, the heat of his breath, the way her body had recognized something deeper than logic. It made no sense. She wasn't like him. She wasn't a wolf. She was human, broken, fragile, and yet her soul screamed otherwise. When the door finally burst open, she nearly jumped out of her skin. Adrian staggered in, half-shifted, his body cut between man and beast, claws still extending from his hands, golden fire dimming in his eyes. His chest heaved, sweat and blood streaking down his skin. He looked at her as though he'd seen a ghost, or worse, as though she was the thing haunting him. You, he rasped, voice raw. You shouldn't have followed me there. Elena steadied herself. I didn't follow. You came to me. His jaw clenched. He turned away, fists digging into the wood of the table. You don't understand. Then explain it to me, she demanded. His breath shuddered. Silence stretched between them, heavy as chains. Finally, he said the words she wasn't ready for, but had already known in her bones. You're my mate. The world seemed to tilt. Elena's lips parted, her throat dry. That's not possible. Adrian turned then, his eyes burning into hers. It's more than possible. It's inevitable. Fated. You're mine. Her pulse raced. A part of her wanted to deny it, to push him away, to claim her humanity as a shield. But deep down, in the hollow her daughter's death had carved, something answered him. A truth she couldn't escape. But you won't claim me, she whispered. Adrian's face twisted with pain. If I mark you, I'll drag you into a world that will tear you apart. You'll never be safe. Not from me. Not from them. Her eyes softened, tears burning. And if you don't? He looked at her like a man drowning. Then I'll lose the only thing keeping me alive. Chapter 10, Kidnapped by Shadows. The night was too still. Elena felt it long before she saw it, that heavy silence that presses against the skin, as though the world itself is holding its breath. Adrian had left to scout the ridge after confessing the truth about their bond, and she had promised to stay in the cabin. But promises felt hollow when shadows slipped through the trees. Her fingers froze on the edge of her journal. She heard it, the faint crunch of boots, the whisper of movement. Not wolves. Men. Before she could react, the door slammed open. Figures in black stormed inside, their faces masked, their movements efficient and cold. Elena gasped, stumbling back. Who? One of them grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back with brutal force. Pain shot up her arm. She cried out, struggling, but another pressed a cloth over her mouth. The bitter tang of chemicals filled her lungs, stealing her strength. The last thing she saw was the insignia stitched into the intruder's jacket, a silver crescent pierced by a dagger. And the last thing she heard was one word, spoken like a curse. Lucian. She woke to darkness. Her head pounded, her limbs heavy. Chains bit into her wrists, binding her to a chair. The room was damp, the air laced with mildew and rust. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped steadily, counting the seconds she didn't know she was losing. Elena. Her name slithered from the shadows, smooth and poisonous. Lucian stepped into the dim light. He was nothing like Adrian. Where Adrian was raw dominance, scarred and powerful, Lucian was elegance carved in cruelty. His suit was immaculate, his smile razor-sharp, his eyes gleaming with the same golden fire, but twisted, corrupted. Ah, he purred, crouching in front of her. So you're the woman who's managed to leash the broken alpha. I must admit, I expected more. Elena glared at him, her voice hoarse. You'll never break him. Lucian's smile widened, cruel amusement flickering in his gaze. Oh, I don't need to break him. You'll do that for me. He leaned closer, his breath brushing her cheek. You see, Adrian destroyed me once. Stole what should have been mine. And now I'll return the favor. Piece by piece. He lifted her chin with one cold finger. When he comes for you, and he will, he'll have to choose. Save his mate, his voice dipped into venom. Or watch his pack burn. Chapter 11, The Alpha's Vow. The moment Adrian returned to the cabin and found it empty, his world shattered. The scent hit him first, fear, chemicals, unfamiliar men. His wolf raged, snarling inside him, desperate to chase, to kill, to tear apart anyone who touched her. He ripped the room apart, overturning furniture, claw marks gouging into the wood. His chest heaved, eyes blazing. Elena! His roar split the night, echoing through the mountains like a wounded god. But no answer came. Only silence. Adrian fell to his knees, his fists slamming into the floorboards. For years, he had lived half-dead, clawing his way through guilt and pain. He thought nothing could hurt more than losing his humanity. He had been wrong, because losing her was worse. When dawn bled across the sky, Adrian stood at the ridge, scars glinting in the pale light. The pack gathered below, whispers trembling through them. They had seen the rival Alpha defeated, but now they saw something different, their king reborn in fury. Adrian's voice carried like thunder. Lucian has taken what is mine. My mate, my blood, my soul. His golden eyes burned. He thinks this weakens me. He thinks it breaks me. But hear me now, his claws extended, catching the light. There will be no mountain high enough, no shadow deep enough, no enemy strong enough to stop me. The pack bowed, fear and loyalty intertwining. For Elena, Adrian growled, his wolf rumbling beneath his words, I will burn the world to ash. Chapter 12, The Enemy's Game. The chains bit into Elena's wrists, but she had stopped struggling hours ago. The raw iron links had rubbed her skin red, each movement sending shocks of pain up her arms. The room was cold, a cavernous underground hall that smelled of damp stone and blood long since dried. And Lucian watched her. He stood near the far wall, leaning casually against a steel pillar, his gaze sharp as a blade. He hadn't touched her since bringing her here. Not in the way she feared, at least. No, Lucian was a different breed of monster. He fed on her fear. You know, he said softly, circling her like a vulture, he was never supposed to be king. Elena kept her chin high, though her voice trembled. Adrian is king. You're just a bitter shadow. Lucian's laugh was low, rich with mockery. Oh, darling, is that what he told you? That fate handed him the crown? No. He stole it. He slaughtered his own blood to take it. Her breath caught. You're lying. Am I? His smile widened. He crouched before her, eyes glinting gold in the dim light. The night of the blood moon, Your precious mate tore apart his own brother. Ripped him to pieces. That was the true beginning of the broken alpha. Elena's heart pounded. She wanted to deny it, but the flicker of doubt gnawed at her chest. Adrian had never spoken much about his past, about the scars that laced his body like broken promises. Lucian saw the crack in her armor and pressed deeper. Tell me, Elena, when you look into his eyes, do you really see a man? His voice was a serpent's whisper. Or do you see the beast that will one day devour you? Her lips trembled. She hated him. She hated the way he twisted truth with poison. Hated that a sliver of her mind wondered if he was right. But even through the doubt, one thing burned clearer than all else. She remembered Adrian's eyes when he looked at her. Not as prey, not as conquest, but as something fragile he was terrified of breaking. Elena forced her voice steady. I see the man, and he'll come for me. Lucian's smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it hardened cold and cruel. Then let's see how far your king will fall for you. Chapter 13. The Blood Oath. The wind howled through the mountain passes, carrying the scent of war. Adrian stood at the edge of the cliff, his pack gathered behind him, waiting for the command that would set fire to their world. But Adrian wasn't looking at them. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, where shadows stretched long and far. She's alive, he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. His wolf pulsed inside him, restless and furious, pulling him like a compass toward Elena. The mate bond burned in his chest, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a scream. But rage alone wouldn't win this war. A figure stepped forward from the crowd. Older, scarred, with silver streaking his dark hair. His name was Kale, once a beta of Adrian's father, long since exiled for betrayal. You can't do this alone, Kale said, his voice low, gravelly. Lucian's stronghold is fortified. His wolves outnumber yours 2-1. Adrian turned slowly, his golden eyes sharp. You think I care about numbers? Kale didn't flinch. I think you care about her. Which means you'll need more than rage. You'll need allies. Murmurs rippled through the pack. Many still hated Kale. He had betrayed their blood. But Adrian studied him with a gaze that cut to bone. Why should I trust you? Adrian asked. Kale met his stare without faltering. Because I owe you. And because I lost my mate once. I won't watch another man lose his if I can stop it. Silence stretched. The pack waited, breathless. Finally, Adrian extended his clawed hand. The ancient gesture of wolves before battle. Kale stepped forward, pressing his own scarred palm against it. Blood mingled as claws sliced skin. A vow written in flesh. A blood oath. The mountain wind howled louder, as if the earth itself bore witness. Adrian's voice was a growl, low and lethal. For Elena, I'll tear down his kingdom brick by brick. And if the world burns with it, his eyes blazed. Then let it burn. Chapter 14. Fire and Chains. The stronghold loomed ahead like a scar carved into the mountain. Black stone walls, iron gates, torches that flickered against the night sky. Adrian crouched on the ridge with Kale at his side, the pack spread out behind them. His muscles coiled with tension, his claws flexing against the dirt. He could feel her. Elena's presence tugged at his soul like a heartbeat. Weak, afraid, but alive. Every fiber of his being screamed to charge down the slope and tear through anything that stood between them. But Kale's voice cut through the haze of rage. Patience, the older wolf whispered. He wants you reckless. He's counting on it. Adrian's jaw clenched, teeth grinding. Patience had never been his virtue. But Elena's scent drifted on the wind, faint, desperate, and it nearly broke him. The gates groaned open. Wolves poured out, armored and armed, their eyes glowing with Lucian's command. They formed ranks, a wall of snarls and steel. And at the front, standing with the arrogance of a king, was Lucian himself. Chains clinked. Elena was dragged into the open, bound and pale, a guard's hand gripping her arm like she was nothing more than bait. Her eyes met Adrian's across the battlefield, wide with fear, but beneath it burned something else, defiance. Adrian, she cried, her voice breaking. Rage exploded in his chest. The pack behind him growled, restless, their alpha's fury rippling through them like a storm. Lucian's smile was venom. Come, brother. Come see what your love costs. He yanked Elena forward, jerking the chain around her wrists. She stumbled, gasping, but did not fall. Her eyes never left Adrian's, as if willing him to stay in control. Adrian's claws dug into his palms until blood dripped between his fingers. His wolf roared inside him, demanding to be unleashed. Not yet, Kale hissed. Wait for the breach. But patience shattered when Lucien's hand closed around Elena's throat. The world went red. Adrian's roar shook the mountains. His body snapped, bones cracking, muscles tearing, for erupting in a violent bloom. The broken alpha rose, massive and terrible, golden eyes burning with primal fire. The pack shifted behind him, wolves of shadow and fury answering their king. The battlefield erupted. Steel clashed with claw. Screams tore through the night. Blood painted the ground. Adrian tore through Lucien's front lines like a storm-given flesh, his fangs ripping, claws shredding. Every kill was a step closer to her. But Lucien was waiting. The rival alpha dragged Elena back into the fortress, chains rattling, his laughter echoing through the chaos. Adrian's wolf lunged, but the gates slammed shut, iron slamming like thunder. He had reached the walls, but Elena was still chained in the dark. And Lucien had only begun his game. Chapter 15. The Wolf Within. The battle raged outside the stronghold, but inside, Elena's world shrank to stone walls and Lucien's cruel smile. He paced before her, a predator savoring his prey. "Did you see him?" he murmured. "Did you see the monster he becomes for you?" Elena, chained to the pillar, lifted her chin. "He's not a monster." Lucien's laugh was sharp, echoing off the cold stone. "Not yet, but he will be." He leaned close, golden eyes glinting. "Do you know why they call him the Broken Alpha? It's not just his scars. It's what's inside him. He can't control it. He never could." Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. She wanted to deny him, but Lucien's words curled into her doubts like poison. "He killed his own blood," Lucien whispered. His brother begged for mercy, and Adrian ripped his throat out with his teeth. Her breath hitched. Adrian had told her nothing of that night. Lucien saw the crack and pressed harder. "And now he'll do the same to you. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day, Elena, when his beast is stronger than his love, you'll just be another corpse beneath his claws." For the first time, fear stabbed through her defiance. Not fear of Lucien. Fear of what Adrian truly was. But then she remembered the night by the fire, when Adrian had whispered he feared himself more than she ever could. She remembered the gentleness in his scarred hands when he touched her, as if she were glass. Lucien wanted her to break. Instead, she whispered, "You're wrong." His smile faltered. Because in that moment, though her heart shook, Elena chose belief. Outside, a howl shattered the air, Adrian's howl, furious and unstoppable. And Lucien's eyes darkened. "Then watch him prove me right." Chapter 16, marked by the Alpha. The stronghold's gates shook as Adrian slammed into them, claws raking iron, muscles straining with raw fury. Sparks burst where steel met steel. Wolves fought and died around him, the battlefield a blur of blood and shadows. But all Adrian heard was her heartbeat. Inside, Elena flinched at the sound of the gates rattling. Hope surged, but so did dread. Lucien stood with her, lips curled into a cruel smile. "Listen to him," he whispered, voice dripping poison. "That's not a man who loves you. That's a beast who will tear the world apart until there's nothing left but ash." She shook her head, tears threatening. "No, he's fighting for me." Lucien leaned close, breath hot against her ear. "Then let me prove what happens when he wins." He pressed a claw against her collarbone, dragging lightly until blood welled. The wound wasn't deep, but it seared, not from pain, but from the bond. Outside, Adrian howled, a raw, guttural sound that split the night. His chest burned as if the wound had been carved into him, too. Lucien's smile widened. "You feel it, don't you, brother?" he shouted toward the gates. Every cut, every bruise, every scream. He raked his claw deeper across Elena's skin. She gasped, body arching against the chains. Adrian staggered, clutching his chest. The mate bond twisted, turned against him, feeding him her pain like venom. Cale grabbed his arm, shouting above the battle. "He's using her as a tether. If you lose yourself now, you'll kill her." The beast inside Adrian roared, demanding release, demanding blood. But through the haze of fury, one thought broke through. "If I lose control, I'll destroy her myself." With a shuddering breath, Adrian forced his claws to retract, his body shaking with the effort of holding back. Lucien's laughter echoed from the walls. "Good. Stay broken. Stay weak. Because the only way to save her," he yanked the chains tighter around Elena's wrists until she cried out, "is to claim her. Mark her. Bind her to you forever." Elena's eyes widened, tears streaking down her face. She didn't fully understand, but Adrian did. A true alpha mark. The irreversible bond. To claim her fully as mate would save her life. but chain her to his cursed bloodline, his broken soul. The choice cut deeper than any wound. And Lucian knew it. Chapter 17, The Gathering Storm. The battle outside waned, but the war inside had only begun. Adrian's pack had managed to force Lucian's wolves back from the gates, buying precious time. But the stronghold loomed, impenetrable. Cale wiped blood from his blade, his expression grim. He's baiting you. He wants you to mark her in rage, not love. If you do, he wins. Adrian's golden eyes blazed. If I don't, she dies. Then we find another way. Adrian turned on him, fury flashing. There is no other way. His claws sliced deep grooves into the stone at his feet. For a moment, silence fell, the pack staring at their king, their alpha, unraveling. Then, from the shadows, a voice spoke. She may not be as powerless as you think. It was Marin, the healer, an elder wolf who had long served the royal bloodline. Her silver hair gleamed in the moonlight as she stepped forward. What do you mean? Adrian demanded. Marin's eyes softened. The mate bond is not a chain, Adrian. It's a bridge. If she trusts you, if she chooses you with her whole soul, then the bond cannot be twisted by Lucian's cruelty. But she must choose freely, not under force. The words sank into him like fire. Adrian had always feared that his darkness would chain Elena to misery. But now hope flickered. Perhaps she could choose him, not as alpha, not as beast, but as man. Inside, Elena stirred. The wound on her collarbone still burned, but something stronger pulsed beneath it, the bond. She could feel Adrian's struggle, his refusal to break, his fight not just for her life, but for her choice. And for the first time since the chains closed, she believed she wasn't only a prisoner. She was part of this war. Chapter 18, Whispers of Blood. The battlefield fell quiet. Torches sputtered against the mountain wind, their glow casting jagged shadows on blood-stained stone. Adrian stood apart from his pack, golden eyes fixed on the fortress walls. Elena's scent lingered in his lungs, salt, iron fear. His claws itched to rip the world apart until she was free. But Marin's words gnawed at him. She must choose you. Not under force. The thought terrified him more than any war. Because what if Elena chose not to? Cale approached, cautious. You've been here before. Adrian's jaw tightened. Don't. Cale didn't stop. She needs to know the truth, Adrian. Before Lucian poisons her with it. Silence stretched. Then Adrian growled, low and raw. I killed him, Cale. My own brother. My blood. How do I speak that truth to her and expect her to stay? Cale's gaze was steady. By giving her what no one ever gave you, the choice. Adrian's breath shook. Memories clawed at him. His brother's pleading eyes, the heat of the fire that night, the beast inside him breaking loose. The moment his fangs had torn through kin. The sound that had haunted him ever since. Lucian had turned that night into a weapon, and now he wielded it against Elena. Adrian's fists clenched until blood slicked his palms. He would not let history chain her. Inside the fortress, Elena stirred in her bonds. Lucian had left her alone in the dark, but his words lingered like venom. He killed his own blood. It echoed in her mind, and yet, so did Adrian's touch, his restraint, the way he fought not just for her, but for control of himself. The darkness whispered doubt, but her heart whispered louder. And somewhere deep within, the bond pulsed, not as a chain, but as a promise. Chapter 19, The Prisoner's Resolve. The dungeon was cold, damp stone pressing against Elena's back. Her wrists ached from the chains, but her spirit, strangely, felt sharper than before. Lucian returned, his boots echoing across the floor. In his hand, he carried a chalice of dark wine. You're stronger than I thought, he mused, circling her like a vulture. Most would have broken by now. Elena met his gaze with steel. Maybe you don't know me at all. Lucian's smile was thin. I know enough. I know your pulse quickens when I speak of Adrian's sins. You wonder if he'll turn on you. You wonder if loving him will cost your life. Her jaw tightened. She refused to give him the satisfaction of flinching. But Lucian leaned closer, his breath cold. Let me show you freedom. Stay by his side, and you'll be shackled to his beast until it consumes you. Choose me, and you'll never be broken. For a moment, silence. Then Elena laughed. Soft, bitter, but real. You want me to fear him, she whispered. But all you've shown me is how much he fears himself. And that's why I trust him. Because he fights it every second for me. Lucian's smile cracked. For the first time, his golden eyes darkened with something ugly, frustration. Elena leaned forward as far as her chains allowed. You want to use me as a weapon against him? Then hear this. I will never break for you. For a heartbeat, Lucien's mask slipped. His claws twitched at his sides. But then his grin returned, crueler than before. Then I'll make him break instead. And he left her in the dark, chains biting, but her spirit burning brighter than ever. Chapter 20. The Bond Tested. Night deepened over the mountain. Adrian stood before the gates once more, his pack bruised and bloodied but unbroken. He could feel her now clearer than ever. Not just fear, not just pain, but defiance. Elena's fire reached him through the mate bond like a hand in the dark. It steadied him, anchored him. Cale noticed the change in his posture. She's still fighting, isn't she? Adrian's lips curved, the faintest ghost of a smile. Always. But even as hope sparked, the bond wavered, a sudden, stabbing pain that ripped through his chest. He staggered, claws gouging stone. Elena's scream echoed inside him. Lucien had done something. The stronghold's torches blazed brighter, and a horn sounded. The gates opened again, not with retreat, but with spectacle. Lucien emerged, dragging Elena forward, chains gleaming in the firelight. Her face was pale, but her eyes still burned with defiance. And carved into her skin, just above her heart, was a mark, not Adrian's, but Lucien's. A false claim. A brand of defiance meant to mock. Adrian's roar shook the mountain. His wolf surged, barely restrained. Lucien raised Elena's bound wrist like a trophy. She belongs to me now, brother. Come, tear her free, and destroy her with your own hands. The pack stirred behind Adrian, growls rising. Rage thundered in his veins. But Elena, even marked, even chained, locked eyes with him. And through the bond, faint but steady, came her whisper. Don't break for him. Fight for us. Adrian's claws lowered. His chest heaved. And for the first time, the beast inside him stilled. Lucien's smirk faltered. Because Adrian wasn't breaking. He was choosing. Chapter 21. The False Mark. The world narrowed to that single scar burned into Elena's skin. The false mark glowed faintly, pulsing with Lucien's twisted energy. It wasn't real, not the sacred bond of mates, but it was poison all the same. Adrian's wolf snarled within, demanding blood. His claws scored the stone beneath his feet, yet his golden eyes locked on Elena's, not Lucien's. Let her go, he growled, voice like thunder. Lucien laughed, yanking Elena against his chest. Can't you see? She's already mine. My mark lives where yours never will. The pack stirred, restless, growls rising like a storm. But Adrian raised a hand, stilling them. Because he saw it, beneath the brand, through the bond, Elena's defiance still burned. She had not yielded. She had not chosen. Lucien had tried to twist the bond into a chain. But Adrian felt it. The thread connecting them was still hers. Still theirs. Elena's voice rang out, steady despite the chains. Your mark is nothing, Lucien. A scar on my skin doesn't change what's in my soul. The false alpha's eyes flickered, his smirk faltering for the briefest heartbeat. Rage crackled in the air. Adrian's lips curved, sharp and dangerous. You've made your first mistake, brother. You think you can brand her. But the bond chooses, not you. Lucien's claws dug into Elena's shoulder, drawing blood. Then I'll break her until she does choose. And with that, he dragged her back into the stronghold, gates slamming shut. Adrian stood trembling, fury and restraint locked in brutal war inside him. But when he lifted his head, his voice was steady. Then we bring the fortress down. Chapter 22. Wolves of War. The mountain pass filled with howls. From the forests, from the valleys, from distant packs who had once sworn loyalty to the crown. News of Lucien's treachery had spread like wildfire, and now wolves poured in from every direction. Cale stood at Adrian's side, watching the gathering armies. You've done the impossible. They're uniting for her. For you. Adrian's gaze swept the horizon, firelight glinting in his eyes. Not for me. For the bond. Marin approached, carrying a staff carved with ancient runes. The fortress cannot fall to brute force alone. Lucien has woven old magic into its walls. You'll need more than claws. Adrian turned grim. Then give me what I need. The elder woman hesitated, then placed a vial of shimmering silver liquid in his hand. Moonfire. It can burn through his wards, but it comes at a cost. Once unleashed, it cannot be controlled. Adrian closed his fist around it. Then I'll wield it carefully. For her. Night fell heavy, and the armies gathered. Wolves stood shoulder to shoulder with mercenaries, rogues, even rival packs who once hated Adrian, but now chose him over Lucien's tyranny. Around the campfires, whispers spread. Of the broken alpha who had refused to break, of the human woman who defied false marks and chains. Their story had become legend before the war had even begun. And as Elena sat chained in the fortress tower, she felt it through the bond. Hope, strength, unity. The war drums beat not just for Adrian, but for them. Lucien felt it too. And for the first time, unease crept into his golden eyes. Chapter 23. The Broken Crown. The first light of dawn broke across the mountains, but it was not gentle. It bled red against the jagged peaks, as though the sky itself had already declared war. Below, the valley seethed with life, wolves in their thousands, eyes glowing like scattered embers, their howls rising into the chill air in one unbroken chorus. Steel glinted, banners snapped, and the earth itself seemed to tremble beneath the weight of what was coming. At the forefront stood Adrian. His cloak was torn, his body marked with scars that spoke of battles survived but never forgotten. Golden eyes burned as he stared at the black fortress ahead, the citadel that had once been his family's and now lay desecrated under Lucien's hand. The wards etched into its stone pulsed faintly, like veins carrying poison. Cale came to his side, armor dented, blade already drawn. His voice was low, steady, the voice of a soldier who knew this might be his last dawn. When we strike those gates, there will be no retreat. Adrian's claws flexed. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. There never was. The warhorn blew. The valley erupted. Wolves surged forward in a living tide, paws pounding, weapons raised, their howls splitting the morning. Arrows screamed down from the walls, striking flesh and stone alike. The wards flared, hurling some back in bursts of crackling light. But still they came. Adrian was the storm at their center. His claws tore through Lucien's soldiers, each strike a blur of fury and precision. No blow touched him without being repaid in blood. Every heartbeat echoed with one thought, one promise: Elena. Inside the tower, she felt it. Chained but unbroken, Elena's pulse quickened with every surge of the bond. Adrian was close. She could feel his rage, his pain, his unstoppable will as if it were her own. The false mark Lucien had branded into her skin seared hotter, trying to twist that bond into agony. Lucien entered the chamber, his golden eyes wild, his smirk brittle. "Do you feel it?" he hissed. "Every strike he makes brings him closer to ruin. When he breaks through, the beast will consume him. And when he finally stands before you, you'll see what you're bound to. Not a king, not a man, just a monster." Elena lifted her chin, though her wrists bled where the chains bit into them. "If he's a monster, then he's mine. And he'll still be more of a king than you ever were." Lucien's roar shook the chamber, just as the fortress gates below shattered under the force of moonfire and steel. Stone exploded. Fire and smoke billowed through the corridors. And through the chaos strode Adrian, his eyes blazing, his body a canvas of blood and fury. The broken crown was crumbling, and only one alpha would rise from the ashes. Chapter 24. The Siege Within. The fortress groaned like a dying beast as stone crumbled and flames licked at its blackened walls. Wolves stormed the corridors, their roars mingling with the clash of steel, but none dared step into the throne hall when Adrian entered. It was not theirs to fight. This was his. Lucien stood at the far end, the shattered crown of their bloodline perched crookedly on his head. His smile was carved from madness, his hands dripping crimson. Beside him, Elena struggled against her broken chains, defiance blazing in her eyes despite the false mark searing her skin. "Brother," Lucien drawled, his voice echoing in the cavernous hall. "You came home at last." Adrian's claws flexed at his sides, his golden gaze locked on Elena for only a heartbeat, long enough to promise her he was here, that she was his anchor, before shifting to Lucien. "Step away from her." Lucien laughed, the sound fractured, almost desperate. "Do you see what I've built? A throne of fear, a crown that even death couldn't tear from me. And you," he spat, eyes flashing, "you think you can walk in here and take it? You, the broken alpha?" Adrian's voice dropped to a growl, low and lethal. "I didn't come to take it. I came to end it." The air cracked. Lucien lunged, claws tearing through the space where Adrian had stood an instant before. The hall erupted into chaos, steel ringing, stone splintering, shadows flickering against firelight. They moved with the speed of predators, brothers turned beasts. Every strike was personal, every wound remembered. Lucien fought with fury, every blow desperate to keep his throne. Adrian fought with purpose, every strike sharpened by Elena's heartbeat in his chest. The ground split under their claws, the ancient banners of their house torn from the walls, the crown tumbling from Lucien's head as the two collided again and again. Above the din, Elena's voice cut through like lightning. Adrian. He staggered, Lucian's claws raking his shoulder, but her voice steadied him. His wolf surged, golden fire blazing through his veins. Lucian's grin faltered. For the first time, he saw it. Adrian wasn't fighting alone. And that terrified him. Chapter 25. The True Mark. The throne hall burned. Flames licked the walls, smoke coiled like dark serpents, and every shattered stone echoed the violence of their war. Adrian and Lucian clashed, claws striking sparks, roars shaking the very bones of the fortress. They were no longer brothers. They were alpha and usurper, king and pretender, predator and prey. Lucian's strikes came faster now, more frenzied, his golden eyes blazing with desperation. You can't win, Adrian. You've always been weak, chained by guilt, chained by love. That human will break you. He lunged, his claws aimed for Adrian's throat. But Adrian twisted, seizing Lucian's wrist mid-strike. Their strength locked, a contest of will and blood. Adrian's golden fire clashed against Lucian's dark fury, their bond as brothers tearing apart with every heartbeat. Behind them, Elena strained against her chains. The false mark burned hotter, searing through her skin, its corruption feeding on her fear. Lucian had twisted it to control her, to poison her bond with Adrian. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Through the smoke, through the chaos, her eyes found Adrian's. And in that moment, she understood. The bond wasn't something Lucian could taint. It was hers to claim, hers to choose. Elena! Adrian's voice broke through his battle grit, raw, desperate. Her lips parted, whispering words that seemed to shake the flames themselves. I choose you. The false brand flared white-hot, then shattered. Lucian froze, his eyes widening as the corrupted mark seared away from Elena's skin like burning ash. In its place, the mate bond surged, pure, unbreakable, blazing across her soul. Adrian roared, his power erupting as the bond locked into place. Golden fire surged through him, through her, through them both. His claws drove into Lucian's chest, forcing him to the ground. The usurper alpha howled, thrashing, but for the first time, he was losing. Not to claws. Not to strength. But to love. Chapter 26. The Last Howl. The hall fell silent, but for the sound of fire crackling and blood dripping onto stone. Lucian knelt before Adrian, pinned beneath his brother's claws. His chest heaved, his golden eyes dimming with every breath. And still he laughed, a hollow, broken sound. You think you've won? His voice rasped. Take the crown. Take her. Take it all. But the curse of our bloodline will devour you too. Adrian's claws pressed deeper, but his voice was steady, final. No. It ends with me. With a single strike, it was over. Lucian's body fell still, his laughter echoing into nothing. The crown, shattered and bloodstained, rolled across the stone and came to rest at Adrian's feet. For a long moment, he stared at it. A symbol of power, of legacy, of everything he had lost and everything he had won. His chest rose and fell, his wolf still raging, until Elena's hand touched his arm. The fire in him stilled. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but her voice was steady. You're not broken, Adrian. You never were. His gaze softened, his hand covering hers. The golden fire that had blazed through him now pulsed gently, tethered to her, no longer a curse but a bond. Around them, the pack entered the hall, Kale leading them. They saw the fallen usurper, the burning banners, the broken crown. And they bowed. Alpha, Kale said, his voice reverent. But Adrian didn't reach for the crown. He reached for Elena, drawing her close, their foreheads pressed together. The war was over. The bloodline curse was broken. And from the ashes of a shattered kingdom, a new reign would rise, not built on fear, but on love. Outside, the wolves howled, not in mourning, but in victory. The last howl of war. The first howl of a new dawn. End of Book 1.